The man I hated most, my husband, died in a sea of fire to save me. Before he took his last breath, he tore up our marriage certificate, eyes burning crimson with rage. If there's another life, he said hoarsely, I'd rather we never met. I froze, finally understanding the depth of his resentment. 3 years ago, his childhood sweetheart's family had been exiled. She had come to him, begging for help. But that day, he was accompanying me to the temple to pray for blessings, and because of that, he missed the chance to save her. He blamed me for it. For 10 long years. After his death, I became the sinner of the world. Even my once loving parents-in-law began to look at me with disgust. If not for you, our son would still be alive. Your very existence is a mistake. Unable to bear it any longer, I took my own life with a dagger. Yet when I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Julian came to propose. This time, I swore to grant everyone their wish, even if it meant sacrificing myself. Julian's face was cold and expressionless, his eyes devoid of any joy a groom should have. Leela, it was so, he said icily. My parents took you in out of kindness, raised you as one of their own. Who would have thought you'd repay them by scheming to marry me? Let me tell you this, even if we do get married, don't you dare think I'll ever love you. I stared at him in a daze, at his young, unlined face, and then at the seamstress waiting by the door to take my measurements for a wedding gown. Only then did it sink in. I had returned to 10 years ago. At this point, Julian's childhood sweetheart's family had not yet been exiled. She had not yet thrown herself into the lake in despair after finding no one to save her. Thankfully, it wasn't too late. Bitterness welled up from my chest as memories of my previous life washed over me. I forced back my tears and met his cold gaze. I know your heart belongs to someone else, I said quietly. Don't worry this time. I'll make sure you get what you want. Julian's eyes widened in surprise, and he let out a mocking laugh. You'll make sure I get what I want. How? Exactly? Everyone in the capital already knows about our engagement. I've always treated you like my own sister. Cared for you in every possible way. But you sowed discord before my parents. Twisted words to your advantage. If not for you, they would never have made things so difficult for Clara. With that, he rose in anger, turned to the window, and gazed toward Clara's home. His slender fingers traced the jade pendant she had given him. I stood there silently for a long time before walking toward the seamstress at the door. Calmly, I gave her Clara's measurements. Then, let out a low sigh. I took out the wedding invitation and replaced the bride's name with Clara's. When I finished, my eyes fell on the jade bracelet around my wrist. My heart gave a dull ache. It was a gift from Julian 10 years ago. Back then, my parents had died in battle, and I was nearly torn apart by greedy relatives. Julian had appeared like a divine savior, rescuing me from the flames, pleading with his parents to adopt me, and staying by my side ever since. His parents often teased that I was his little tail. Julian never got angry, he would only smile softly and pat my head. When the servants mocked me for being an orphan, he punished them without hesitation. Leela is my sister, he declared. If any of you dare to bully her again, you'll lose your heads. He kept his promise and protected me well. Whether during spring outings or palace banquets, he always accompanied me. Everyone in the capital knew I was Julian's only weakness. Young and foolish, I mistook that care for love. My heart for him grew deeper and deeper until it consumed me. His parents noticed. Of course. Seeing us together, they began to quietly push the match along. I once believed he felt the same. But after everything that happened in my past life, I knew better now. The person he loved was never me. With a sigh, I dismissed the seamstress and turned to Julian, feigning calm. Brother Julian, I said lightly, we still lack a matching pendant for the wedding. Shall we visit the treasure pavilion together? His gaze shifted from the window back to me, sharp and cold as frost. You just finished your fitting and already can't wait to buy a love token? Leela, Asara, are you really so desperate to marry me? Unfortunately, heading for Thelme. He sneered. I have an appointment with Clara today. Suit yourself. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat and forced a smile. In that case, go meet her first. Let's rendezvous at the gate come dusk. That way, your parents won't notice. Julian paused, suspicion flickering in his eyes. You're being awfully considerate today. Normally, hadn't felt worried Sashin. Whenever Clara's name comes up, you throw a fit. What's this? Feeling secure now that the wedding's near? I gave a faint, bitter laugh, but before I could answer, he had already turned and left. I left soon after, wandering the streets aimlessly until dusk, then headed toward the Julian estate. But instead of Julian, I ran straight into his parents. Seeing me out alone with my maid so close to the wedding, they immediately understood what must have happened. Julian's mother took my hand, her eyes full of pity. Leela, that foolish boy must have upset you. Don't worry, he'll change after marriage. He just says things he doesn't mean. Look, she continued, motioning to a servant. He even sent the shopkeeper from the treasure pavilion with several matching pendants. Pick whichever you like. Marriage is a serious matter, you must choose carefully. I've always hoped you two would end up together. Don't worry. I'll make sure you have the grandest wedding in our family. They all believed Julian cared for me but was too proud to admit it. But I knew better. His kindness was born of guilt and habit. Even without Clara, we were never destined to be equals. For his future wife, I carefully chose the finest, most delicately crafted pendant. Just as the shopkeeper left, Julian's personal servant came running in, clutching a letter. Since you've already chosen the pendant, it read, you'd better remember your place. From now on, as the lady of the Julian household, don't you dare meddle in my affairs. A wave of sorrow crashed through me. Blinking back tears, I said softly to the servant, please tell him not to worry. I know my place. The servant turned to leave, but Julian's mother stopped him. Wait. Where is that unfilial son of mine? The boy trembled. The young master is at Lady Clara's residence. Julian's father's face darkened instantly. That wretched boy. Still sneaking off to see her? Leela, don't be upset. I'll make this right for you. When that brat comes back, I'll break his legs myself. Before his words had even faded, the steward of the family's business rushed in. Panic grin all over his face. He reported that Julian had given away several shops and a fortune in silver, trying to pull strings to clear Clara's father's name from investigation. That alone showed how much he meant to him. Julian's father exploded with fury, while his mother frowned deeply, afraid I might be heartbroken. She patted my hand gently in comfort. Their kindness made my eyes sting. Since my parents' deaths, they had treated me as their own daughter. Knowing how deeply I loved Julian, they had done everything possible to bring us together. But no amount of effort could change fate. I took a breath, knelt before them, and spoke steadily. Uncle, hadn't I? Aunt, I've been unfilial and caused you both too much trouble. You've treated me like your own, and I'm forever grateful. But matters of the heart can't be forced. We all know Julian's heart belongs to Clara. To him, I am but a sister. Since that's the case, I lowered my head, tears falling silently onto the floor. Please, I beg you grant him his wish. Leela has already decided to return to her maternal grandparents' home in the south. Uncle, Aunt, I beg for your blessing. Julian's mother hurriedly helped me up, her eyes filled with distress. Leela, don't be angry, child. We've all seen how good Julian is to you. He just doesn't realize how deep his feelings are yet. Don't be upset. Once he returns, I'll make sure he makes it up to you. Think about it, she added earnestly. If he didn't care for you, why would he have knelt down, egged us to bring you home back then? Julian's father sighed helplessly. The Clara family is full of schemers. Their downfall is only a matter of time. Julian's just been deceived by Clara. He'll wake up soon enough. And besides, the mother continued, the south is so far away. How can we be at ease letting you travel alone? They spoke with such patience and sincerity, trying to persuade me to stay. But they didn't know that in my previous life, I had followed their wishes, marrying Julian with my heart full of hope, only to meet a miserable end. This time, I would not repeat the same mistake. I led them to Julian's private residence and pointed at a large chest in the corner. These are the gifts I'd given him over the years. He never even looked at them all thrown into this box. Yet the simple sugar figurines Clara bought on a whim, he treats like precious treasures. Love and indifference are painfully clear. Uncle, Handbuchkeit, Aunt, please forgive me, can't keep deceiving myself anymore. If you can't bear to part with me, then take me as your godbrother instead. That way, the bond between our families remains. And Julian can also have what he truly desires. Seeing that my mind was set, Julian's parents could only sigh and give up their persuasion. Julian's mother pressed a stack of silver notes into my hand, urging me repeatedly to take care of myself. Holding her hand, I smiled through tears. Godmother, please don't tell Julian about this yet. I want to surprise him. Back in my room, I placed the banknotes into my jewelry box. Then, Dee let out a low sigh. I ordered the maid to bring out all the gifts Julian had given me over the years. Since I'd decided to let go, it was time to rid myself of these things as well. I had the chest carried into the backyard and lit the fire myself. As the flames rose, Clara suddenly burst in from nowhere. Without a word, she grabbed my hand and slammed herself violently against the wall. Before I could even react, Julian stormed in and slapped me hard across the face. Leila, have you gone mad? Clara only came today to thank my family for our help. My cheek burned with pain as I stared at him in shock. Clara's eyes shimmered with tears, her voice trembling pitifully. I know you're about to be married, and I only came to congratulate you in person. I never imagined Leila would hate me so much that she'd attack me. Julian's expression darkened instantly, fury burning in his eyes. We're not even married yet, and you're already acting like the lady of the house? Spreading rumors isn't enough, fury resorting to violence now? Leila, what's wrong with you? And tell me the truth, were you the one who had people slander Clara's family and ruin her father's reputation? I looked at him in disbelief, as if seeing him for the first time. I don't know what happened. The Clara family's troubles have nothing to do with me. I never said a single bad word about her to your parents. I promised I'd help you, and I never went back on my word. Julian frowned, his sharp eyes catching sight of the box. Many of the items inside were gifts he'd once given me. Even the portrait he had personally painted for me was half burned. His face grew darker. What is this supposed to mean? Some ploy to gain my pity? A game of love and manipulation? I'm telling you now, whatever you do, I will never love you. Your constant scheming only disgusts me. And if anything happens to Clara, anything at Allie won't let you off. With that, he carried the injured Clara in his arms and hurried out. On the way, she fainted against his chest. In my past life, Clara had been isolated and hopeless, driven to drown herself in despair. This time, she had Julian's full protection. Yet she still refused to leave me be. Watching him panic for her sake, my heart pricked lead with countless thorns. My eyes dimming with sorrow. Fortunately, having fulfilled Laib's sigh. The doctor said her injuries were not serious, just a fainting spell from anxiety and stress. Julian exhaled in relief, shot me a cold glare, and declared self-righteously, all of this happened because of you. You'll stay and watch over Clara tonight as penance. Then he left without another word. I did as he said, keeping vigil by Clara's bedside until dawn. Not long after sunrise, Julian himself came in carrying a bowl of porridge. Seeing how pale and exhausted I looked, a trace of guilt flickered in his eyes. Why haven't you rested yet? I'm not tired. You've worked hard. Go rest for a while. I never thought I'd live to hear words of comfort from his lips again. I rose obediently. My compliance seemed to please him, and he spoke, slightly awkward. Tomorrow, I'll have the tailor come again. The last wedding gown was too plain. Try on a few new ones. And, about what I said yesterday, don't take it to heart. I spoke out of anger. I apologize. But Clara is innocent. Please don't make things difficult for her because of me. All right? Looking into his dark eyes, I realized that when it came to Clara, any explanation from me was meaningless. He wouldn't care to hear that I planned to leave for the south. I smiled faintly, though my voice was sincere. There's no need. As long as I can marry you, it doesn't matter what the wedding dress looks like. Julian, I wish you a happy wedding. He looked at me suspiciously, about to speak when Clara stirred. She opened her eyes weakly, frowning in confusion. What? What happened to me? Julian immediately forgot I existed. He rushed to her side, helping her sit up and feeding her porridge with tender care. By the time he thought of me again, I was already gone. I had returned to my own residence and begun packing my things. For reasons I couldn't fathom, Julian later sent his servant to invite me to the Pear Guard and to watch a play my favorite. The Phoenix Seeks His Mate. A story of two lovers united at last. I had begged him to watch it with me before, but he'd always sneered at the idea. Now I understood this was his way of making amends. But I was about to leave, and none of it mattered anymore. Besides, Julian had shown me kindness in the past. Caring for the woman he loved was only right. I asked the servant to decline politely. To my surprise, the servant soon returned again saying Julian would come to fetch me himself later. I had no choice but to agree. I waited for a long time in the courtyard, but Julian never appeared. Rising to search for him in the guest room, I found him instead, sitting with Clara under the moon, sharing a drink. He gazed at her with such tenderness, his eyes brimming with intoxicating affection. I left quietly, watching the entire performance of Phoenix seeking the Phoenix alone. When I returned to my room, the maid informed me that Julian had been by, leaving a message for me. He asked me not to mind, promising to make up for his missed appointment tonight. As I packed my things, I whispered, "It's fine. Please tell him for me he owes me nothing. It's I who owe him so much. In my past life, even in his deepest hatred, he still protected me, never allowing anyone to scorn me during our marriage, and he even died trying to save me. His kindness was too immense. And whatever he wished to do, I would never oppose." Just then, without a well sigh, a young servant burst in, panic-stricken. "Miss, it's bad. Young master seems to have offended someone on behalf of Clara's family, and now they're after him." Without a word, I rushed out with my guards. My heart was ablaze with anxiety, filled with terror. Julian let out a low sigh. "Please. You must be safe." I arrived just in time to see a man in black aiming a sword at him. "Julian, watch out." Without thinking, I shoved him aside, making him dodge the fatal blow, but my arm was deeply cut in the process. Julian stared at me in shock. After the assassins were dealt with, he rushed to my side, hurriedly wrapping my wound. His eyes were filled with emotions I couldn't quite understand. "Thank you so much today. But in the future, please don't risk your life to save me. Your safety is more important. Also, as long as you don't cause trouble for Clara, I will continue to protect you, just like before." His words caught me off guard. The words I had longed to hear for so many years. Reconciliation were finally spoken today. My eyes welled up with unshed tears, but I forced a smile. "Thank you, Brother Julian. The doctor assured us that our injuries were superficial and wouldn't affect the wedding preparations." I breathed a sigh of relief and instructed the maid to take care of him. However, since my wound made travel unadvisable, I delayed my departure for a few days. The evening before the wedding, Julian didn't come to see me. As the groom, he couldn't see the bride before the ceremony, but his parents sent a maid with gifts. They were all pieces of jewelry and pastries Julian had chosen. I understood the message from Julian's parents was clear, suggesting he had feelings for me. But I also understood that Clara had likely chosen the finest pieces. The most exquisite gold hairpin had already been placed in Clara's hair. I smiled faintly. On his wedding day, I respectfully bid farewell to his parents and left early, boarding a carriage bound south. Inside the wedding hall, the bride was late, and Julian's heart filled with inexplicable panic. "Leila hasn't finished getting ready yet? She's supposed to leave her family and come to me. Why is it taking so long? She's always wanted to marry me. So why is she delaying?" Before Julian's parents could respond, the guards rushed in with disturbing news. "Young master, it's bad. Miss Leila's carriage heading south was hijacked by bandits. All the passers-by were killed." Julian's face went pale, disbelief overtaking him. "Leila's heading south? Isn't she supposed to marry me? What's she doing going south?" I had already spoken to his parents, and they exchanged a glance before speaking softly. "It's Leila's wish. She knows how you feel about Clara. So she wants to help you by swapping the bride with Clara. We both realize that forcing things never works. Now, this is your wedding day. Don't let it be ruined. We'll handle Leela's situation. Julian stood frozen, his heart taking as though pulled by invisible strings. He grabbed his mother desperately, voice shaking. What do you mean? Swap the bride with Clara? What's going on? Didn't you want me to marry Leela? The date is set. You can't just change the bride. Do you even consider me your son? A big decision like this and you don't even ask my opinion? Julian's father spoke coldly, his anger flaring. You've been so focused on Clara lately, have you even spoken to Leela? She nearly ruined her face trying to save you. Have you even comforted her? Now, Leela is making things right for you. And you're causing a scene? Julian was silenced, unable to answer. His recent neglect of Leela hit him hard. He stubbornly muttered. It's just a small wound. Nothing like you're making it out to be. You're just helping Leela to deceive me, aren't you? I won't believe it. She's just angry with me. I'll go find her now. She must be waiting for me. Before he could take a step, his father slapped him hard. Stop this nonsense. There are high-ranking officials here for the ceremony. Are you trying to ruin the Julian family's reputation? Julian slumped, his face filled with despair as he muttered. How could this happen? We agreed to marry. The wedding dress. The love token, it was all set. How can she just abandon me? It's impossible. It's not possible. Julian's father grabbed him by the collar. Furious. How dare you speak like this? The wedding dress is Clara's size. Even the jewelry you gave her, Clara chose the leftovers. How could you do this? Your mother and I treated her like our own daughter. Don't you think we're heartbroken too? But look at what you've done. If only you'd been more responsible, Leela wouldn't be in this mess. Leela's situation is all your fault. At this point, this is all on you. Julian collapsed to the ground, his body drained of strength. He couldn't understand. Everything had been so close. So perfect. How could she just walk away? In the past, Leela had given him her entire heart, every action revolving around him. Whenever he turned, there was always someone watching him with tenderness and love. Only now did he realize he had let the one person who had once only seen him slip away. This realization shattered him. How could he have forgotten? Leela had always been frail. When he brought her home, he had even arranged for the best physician to take care of her. Worried that she wouldn't eat, he had taken great pains to learn recipes to nourish her. And now, so little time had passed, and he had already cast her aside. Meanwhile, Leela had given everything to him, cooking, stitching, and tirelessly supporting him. She was always gentle with him, a spinning top that never knew fatigue, always revolving around him. And he, gradually neglecting her needs and feelings, had caused her to leave in disappointment. Filled with regret, Julian struggled to rise. He grabbed the shadow guard's hand tightly. Send someone to find her. Now. Immediately. Leela will be fine. Send someone immediately if you don't find her. The wedding will be delayed another day. Julian's father raged, cursing Julian as an ungrateful son. Julian's mother hurriedly tried to calm him down, fearing the outburst would damage his health. Once Julian's father had steadied, Julian's mother, tears streaming, cried out. Why must you do this? If you've already been heartless toward Leela, why keep holding on? The wedding procession is already on its way. What are you going to do now? You were the one who begged us to take Leela in. I thought you two were in love, trying to matchmake in every way. But look at you now. What exactly do you want? At the signal from Julian's father, the hidden guards finally departed. Clara appeared from nowhere, a smile spreading across her face. Seeing her in the wedding attire, Julian felt a pang of discomfort. In a flash of realization, he suspected something. Did you know about this already? Clara feigned confusion. What are you talking about? I've been waiting for you for so long. So I came to find you. Julian's face darkened. Let me ask you again, did you already know about the bride switching arrangement? Why is the wedding dress I gave to Leela now on you? Clara's face twisted with a flash of guilt. Her eyes filled with tears. Julian, don't you want to marry me? I was told by the matchmaker this morning that Leela had arranged for me to marry you. I thought it was something you'd planned. So I didn't ask any further. Julian. Is it so wrong for us to marry? Didn't we promise to be together forever? My parents also agree. From now on, we'll live in harmony and respect each other, won't we? With those words, Clara boldly took a step closer, her intention to offer herself clearly visible. But Julian remained unmoved. His mind lost in thoughts of Leela's every smile and frown. His heart was heavy, weighed down by inner turmoil. He looked at the woman he once desired but didn't hesitate for a moment. Leela is in trouble. Let's pause the wedding for now. Clara's face dropped instantly, her disbelief clear. Do you realize what you're saying? The entire capital knows we're getting married today. Now you tell me to pause? Then, what up? Noticing her slip of the tongue, she sighed and softened her tone. Julian, lo sai. I know you're worried about Leela. But marriage isn't a game. She's put so much effort into making this happen for us. We shouldn't disappoint her. Shouldn't we? Julian, Leela, what's going on with you? Julian couldn't make sense of his own feelings. Marrying Clara had been his long-held wish. But now he could not bring himself to follow through. No matter what. He tried to convince himself that it was because he couldn't bear to think of his sister's life hanging in the balance. As her brother, he had to take care of her. How could he turn a blind eye at this moment? No matter how he tried, he couldn't accept that his wedding day was now tied to Leela's fate. Given the situation, you'll have to handle it on your own. Julian's father shot him a cold glance, leading Julian's mother to follow him out. Both without another word. Julian apologized to the guests and hastily found an excuse to delay the wedding. Clara, tears streaming, looked utterly heartbroken. Julian was too frustrated to care about comforting her. He coldly shoved a stack of silver notes into her hand. This money should be enough to see your family through for the rest of your life. Consider it compensation for today's broken promise. I'm leaving now. With that, he turned and left without giving Clara a chance to stop him. Clara instinctively cried out his name, hoping he'd change his mind. But all she got in return was the sight of Julian's receding back. Outside the wedding hall, Julian hurriedly instructed his household guards to rally a group and head toward the outskirts. He spurred his horse forward recklessly, his heart focused solely on one goal. He had to find Leela and bring her home. He had promised to care for her for life. He had failed her once. But from now on, he would make sure to treat her right. During this, Julian's family sent messengers several times to urge him to return. He ignored them, resolutely pressing on toward the countryside. He had become almost obsessed, failing to notice that the elderly couple, who had promised to personally handle matters concerning Leela, had not moved an inch toward the outskirts. The scene at the outskirts was chaotic. Officials from the government and the coroner were processing the fight. The area was drenched in blood, a clear sign of a brutal battle. His limbs grew weak as a suffocating pain gripped him. Yet no matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find a trace of the one person he desperately sought. He wandered lost, trembling as he reached the coroner's office. Has there been a woman named Leela among the victims? The officer glared coldly at him. No. There was a man named Leela. But he was large and stocky. If there's nothing else, please leave. Don't disturb our work. The officer's words felt like a beam of light, cutting to the darkness of Julian's heart. He leapt onto his horse, euphoric, and rushed back home. He stumbled into Leela's room, frantically searching as though possessed. Hearing the commotion, Julian's parents hurried over. Shocked to see him in such a state, they immediately tried to stop him. Julian, well died, muttered to himself. Leela, she's not dead. Let me go. I need to find her. Let go of me. Julian's father, in a fit of fury, slapped him hard. Are you awake now? If so, head let out a lull sigh. Think about what you've done. Look at yourself. Do you really have anything to offer Leela? If you're in love with Clara, then treat her properly. Stop causing trouble. Julian seemed to snap out of his trance, his gaze lingering on his parents. He suddenly realized what he had overlooked. Their faces were filled with frustration and disappointment, but there was no pain at having lost a loved one. In a flash of clarity, He gripped his father's hand desperately, his voice trembling. Leela is okay, right? You've been hiding something from me, haven't you? Tell me now. Julian's mother, unable to ignore her son's distress, softened. It was Leela's choice. She didn't want to disturb your life with Clara, so she asked us not to tell you. She didn't go to the northwest. She went south to search for her relatives. Son, Leela has moved on. Since you've chosen Clara, let it be. Don't disturb Leela's new life. You were never meant to be. So just treat her as a stranger from now on. Since you've chosen Clara, then treat her well. What would you have her do if you back out now? Upon learning the truth, Julian felt even more tortured. He stared at the pair of clay dolls in the room, the ones he had made and given to Leela on her birthday. He remembered how happy she had been, her eyes sparkling like stars. Furious, having fulfilled wide sigh, he pointed at the dolls, his voice cracking. Strangers? Look at this room. This is filled with memories of me and her. How can you ask me to pretend otherwise? She switched brides without asking me. Did anyone ask for my opinion? She says, let go, and just lets go. If she truly let go, why is she still making things difficult for Clara? Her continuous bullying of Clara is clearly because I like her. Isn't it? At this point, Julian's mother finally gave up. Heartbroken, she said, Leela, a young lady from a noble family, doesn't have the power to trouble an official. I see now you're completely bewitched by Clara. How could you not see something so simple? Leela can't bear to see you waste your heart, which is why she's been warning us time and again. But you're blind, mistaking falsehood for treasure. You don't understand Clara's tricks. But I see them clearly. Let's put it this way, Clara's family downfall is self-inflicted. Leela has her faults. She was just trying to protect her brother from danger. As for you, well, good luck with that. With these last words, Julian's parents stormed off. Julian sat dazed on the ground, staring at the mud figurine before him, lost in thought. He remembered the day he brought her back to the Julian family, how timidly she clung to his sleeve, walking closely behind, afraid he might leave her. His heart was filled with tenderness. And right then, he vowed to protect her for life. To make her happy, he had the servants set up a swing in the courtyard. He remembered how, when Leela discovered it, she hugged his arm in delight, sweetly thanking him, calling him the best brother ever. That was the first time she had smiled at him. In that moment, he swore silently to always protect her smile. She had lost both her parents and was left to rely on others. The housekeeper, seeing her lonely, took advantage of her vulnerability, treating her harshly. Leela endured it all quietly until he accidentally discovered the wounds on her hands. Only under his pressure did she reveal the truth. He punished the housekeeper severely, and when his parents found out, they praised him for his decisiveness. Leela's gaze was filled with admiration, and she said, "Brother, you're the best." His heart swelled with joy, and he made a firm resolution to protect this foolish girl forever. Over time, protecting her became second nature. He often worried about what would happen if his foolish girl were without him. And then he thought, if that's the case, then he would simply protect her for life. In the days that followed, he kept his promise, always watching over her. On spring outings, he would bring her the best flowers. During the Kikiao festival, she would present him with beautifully embroidered sackets. Their relationship grew naturally, and it seemed like nothing could tear them apart. He had once naively believed that it would always be this way. Until, by chance, he met Clara. Clara's appearance shattered the calm between him and Leela. It put their relationship to the ultimate test, and in the end, he was the one who lost the girl who had once loved him so deeply. Julian couldn't help but gather the mud figurine in his arms, choking on his sobs. The silence in the room seemed to mock his missed opportunities. Only the tangible feeling in his hand reminded him that it hadn't all been a dream. A shadow guard appeared quietly, unsure of how to act. Julian wiped his face and asked urgently, "Have you found Leela? Do you know where she is?" The shadow guard hesitated for a second before replying, "No news of Leela yet. But I've discovered that the assassination attempt wasn't an accident, it was planned. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Julian's expression darkened, and as he took the letter from the shadow guard and read it, all evidence pointed to Clara. And her motive was clear, she wanted him to delay the marriage. But she never expected Leila to risk everything to save him. One plan failed, and Clara devised another. She arranged for a man to pose as a servant and planned to set up a situation where Leila would be alone with him. If the two were found in a private room together, Leila's reputation would be ruined and beyond repair. Later, when Leila confronted Clara about the bride swap, Clara finally gave up on her schemes. After learning the truth, Julian could only curse himself. His parents had been right, he had been blind and paid the price. But thankfully, his marriage to Clara hadn't gone through. There was still a chance. Julian made a quick decision. Kneeling outside his parents' door, holding the mud figurine, and begging for their forgiveness. Finally, having fulfilled what I'd say, A relented and told him where Leila had gone. Without hesitation, he immediately prepared a carriage and set off south. Half a month later, he finally found the woman he had been longing for. She was at the theater with her maid, laughing and talking with others. Just as he was about to approach, he saw a man gently drape a cloak over her shoulders. They exchanged a smile, filled with love and intimacy. Julian was struck like a thunderbolt, frozen as he watched their tender interaction. It was too late, everything had already slipped away. He left a stack of banknotes and the love token she had chosen. Then despondently returned to the capital. Later, he heard that Clara's family had been exiled or imprisoned. And it was all because of Julian. But none of it mattered to me anymore. The end. On Valentine's Day, 7 years after our marriage, Tristan recreated the fireworks confession from 10 years ago. Tears welled up in my eyes, touched by the moment until I heard his soft murmur amidst the noise. I love you, Lynn. But my name isn't Lynn. Lynn was my best friend who's now dead. Looking closer at the fireworks, I saw the shimmering initials weren't mine. They were Lynn's. Suddenly, having fulfilled my obsession, it all made sense. 10 years ago, he hadn't taken me to see the fireworks in person. He'd just shown me a video on his phone. Because it was secondhand. Because it had already burned out for someone else. My vision went black, and when I opened my eyes, I was back to that very Valentine's Day 10 years ago. The day Tristan had sent me the fireworks video. This time, I uploaded it straight to the internet. Secondhand fireworks. Absolutely pathetic. That night, the door was buzzing. Did you hear? Tristan set off fireworks outside campus for an hour. He's totally confessing to someone. Who could it be? Just then, my phone chimed. Tristan had sent me the video complete with the crackle of fireworks and a message. Joan, lie down. Will you be my girlfriend? There was no nervousness. No humility, only arrogant confidence. I sucked in a cold breath. I'd actually gone back to that day, the Valentine's Day 10 years ago, when Tristan confessed to me. Joan, did Tristan just message you? The sound of fireworks drew my roommates to me. They snatched my phone to see. In my last life, I would have snatched it back and immediately texted Tristan, yes. I'd love to. But this time, I knew. These were secondhand fireworks. That love was never mine. I had spent a full decade trapped in what I thought was a mutual love story. But really, I was just being played. Expressionless. I told my roommates. He sent it to the wrong person. Before they could say anything, Tristan called. My roommates quickly handed the phone back. Joan, this isn't a mistake, he's confessing to you. You finally made it. Everyone knew I had followed Tristan around like a lovesick puppy all through college. Some warned me, Tristan was just stringing me along. But I, blinded by love, thought he was just shy. I believed that persistence would win him over. I didn't know that what pierced my heart in the end wouldn't be love, it would be a disgusting, deliberate lie. Tristan's name lit up my screen again. I hung up, but before I could enjoy the peace, I heard his voice shouting from below. Joan, come downstairs. I walked to the window and looked down. Tristan stood there without even bothering to bring flowers, looking up at me like he'd already won. I remembered how he proposed to me in my past life, empty-handed. Entitled, Joan, marry me? His eyes looked at me like I was beneath him. But when he looked at Lynn, there was a softness that could drown. The saddest part? I never noticed. Go on. Say yes. Be together. The crowd around the dorm was practically tearing the roof off with excitement. All eyes were on me. Tristan's smug smile widened. Even my roommates tossed a jacket over me and said, "Go already. He's your dream guy, you've liked him for 3 years." Everyone saw my love. But no one saw his deception. He hid it too well. He fooled me too thoroughly. In front of all those eyes. I smiled and shouted, "Tristan." Just as his lips curled into a victorious smile. "Slam." I shut the window. Get lost. The wind carried my voice into every corner. Tristan's grin froze on his face. Silence fell over the entire dorm. My roommates stared at me in disbelief. I let out a cold laugh, picked up my phone, and uploaded the fireworks video to the campus forum. Secondhand fireworks. Absolutely pathetic. The video blew up fast. It hit the trending list. Then, let out a low sigh. A stranger messaged me. "You finally woke up." He sent me dozens of photos. Photos of Tristan and Lynn walking beside me but secretly holding hands behind my back. My scalp went numb. I'd only known Tristan for 3 years. But I'd crushed on him all that time. From the moment he stood on stage as the freshman representative, I'd etched his name into my bones. I pulled every string to switch into his class, join his student council, and add him on social media. I dug up his interests, bought him gifts, learned at every sport he liked just to have something to talk about. Lynn, my best friend, had watched me fall in love with him. Countless times. I'd cried to her in the dead of night. "He seems like he likes someone else. Should I give up?" She always told me, "Why are you acting like some hormonal anti? If he really liked someone else, he'd be with her by now. He's obviously into you." I believed her lies. Even after learning the truth, I never suspected Lynn. I thought she was just an innocent bystander while Tristan toyed with me. But now everything clicked. All the red flags made sense. No wonder she insisted on tagging along every time I tried to meet Tristan, claiming she was helping us. No wonder they always shared strange smiles when we walked as a trio. No wonder Lynn once said my biggest strength was how slow I was. That I was someone who found happiness easily. She was right. They took me for a fool, and I thought being with them was happiness. Shivering, I curled into my blanket, seeking warmth in a frozen world. But Tristan wouldn't let it go. Clearly rattled. He messaged again, still pretending to be calm. "Joan, are you done playing hard to get? If you don't come down, I'm leaving." I scoffed. He was the real expert at playing hard to get. He used my love as a leash, yanking me back every time I tried to walk away. It used to work. Now, just seeing his name made me sick. Whoever stays is a loser. Tristan? Even through the screen, I could picture his stunned expression. I nearly burst out laughing. Turns out, trampling someone's dignity can feel exhilarating. No wonder he kept doing it to me. Seconds later, he sent one last message. "Don't regret this." I glanced at it, then exited the app. Just as I was about to power off my phone and sleep, Lynn messaged me. "Tristan and I spent half a month planning all this. How could you trample his feelings like that? His hand got burned from the fireworks. I'm taking him to the hospital. I'll try to put in a good word for you. Reflect on this and apologize to him tomorrow." If I hadn't seen those photos, I might have believed she was just another victim like me. I might have begged her to stay away from Tristan. But now, I knew what they were. I replied with 5 words. "Wish you ate babies." And turned off my phone to sleep. I thought everything would finally settle down. But the moment I opened my eyes the next morning, I was met with a trending headline. Campus heartthrob Tristan spent the night in a hotel with a girl. The girl ended up in the ER. I clicked on the explosive headline and saw something I would never forget for the rest of my life. It said that last night, Lynn and Tristan went to a hotel and didn't leave until the next morning, when Lynn was rushed to the hospital. Sources from the hospital reported that Lynn suffered from severe bleeding due to intense intimacy. Although her life wasn't in danger, the surgery rendered her unable to ever get pregnant. The post went into shocking detail, even including photos of the two entering and leaving the hotel. It was reposted tens of thousands of times. And the comment section was exploding with insults like slut and scumbag, and sarcastic wishes for happily ever after. I scrolled through the comments, my mind completely blank. In my previous life, I had accepted Tristan's confession. So that night, he went back to the dorm and never went out with Lynn. But in this life, my rejection had triggered a chain reaction I never expected. After the scandal, Tristan and Lynn became pariahs. The school strongly urged them to take a leave of absence, basically kicking them out. Meanwhile, I poured all my focus into studying and started planning for my future. In my past life, after marrying Tristan, I became a full-time housewife. I quickly lost touch with society. Tristan acted grateful on the surface but couldn't hide the disgust on his face. Even his parents looked down on me. And to think, his family wasn't even that well off. When he started his business, it was my parents' money that got him going. Spending money on a man ruins your life. I had to die once to truly learn that lesson. In this life, I won't put my hopes on any man. A week later, I walked out of the library and saw Lynn face pale as a ghost, barely able to stand as people whispered and pointed. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up like I was her savior. "Joan." She rushed over. "You have to clear my name. I just slipped and fell. Tristan happened to pass by and took me to the hospital. You're not dumb enough to believe those rumors, are you?" She actually had the nerve to talk to me like that while begging for help. In that moment, I realized what a pathetic joke I had been in my last life, treated like a dog by my best friend in the first half, and by my so-called lover in the second. I was the one who gave them that power. I yanked my hand out of hers and stepped away like she was contagious. "Is your condition contagious?" Lynn froze. "What?" "Sorry. I misspoke," I said quickly. And just as she began to soften, I added, "It wasn't an infection. It was excessive bleeding. From your intense intimacy." The crowd around us burst into laughter. Lynn, having fulfilled my session, already barely standing, collapsed under the weight of that laughter. Tristan came sprinting over. He caught Lynn with one hand and shoved me with the other. I stumbled and fell, trembling from the pain. I looked down to find the pen I always carried had pierced straight into the palm of my hand. "Joan, you're jealous. But there's a limit. How could you believe those lies and hurt Lynn like this?" Tristan yelled without even noticing my injury. It wasn't until I stayed silent that he saw the pen in my hand and finally looked concerned. He reached toward me, but Lynn clung to him, sobbing. "Tristan, don't blame Joan. I shouldn't have gone to talk to you that night on her behalf. That's what got me caught up in all this. She's just jealous." Tristan's face dark, and as he remembered how I'd humiliated him a week ago. "Joan, I don't care about the rest," he said coldly. You will apologize to Lynn. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you." I was too hurt to bother with his nonsense. Seeing me silent, he smirked arrogantly. The contempt in his eyes was disgusting. Joan, didn't you always want to be with me?" he sneered. "If you want that, apologize." All eyes were on me. Tristan clearly expected me to grovel and beg. Instead, I yanked the pen from my palm and hurled it at the two of them. "You disgusting pair. I hope you're locked in each other's misery forever, and never get the chance to ruin someone else's life again." Everyone was stunned, but Tristan looked the most shocked. He stormed over and grabbed my arm. "Joan, did you hear me wrong? I said if you apologize to Lynn, I'll still be with you." Smack. My hand struck his face hard, leaving a bloody scratch. "I don't want to be with you. Just seeing you makes me want to puke. Got it now?" His eyes were wide with confusion and disbelief. Then Lynn collapsed from weakness. And once again, he didn't hesitate to run to her. I went to the hospital. Online, the gossip about them still hadn't died down. The school made it official and expelled them both. The third time I went to the hospital to change my bandage, I ran into Tristan holding a bouquet of flowers. He hurried over and casually handed them to me. "Come on. Stop being dramatic. Cold wars aren't fun. Let's make up." He thought I hadn't answered his calls because I was waiting for him to come back to me. I laughed bitterly. I knocked the flowers from his hand. A card fell out. It was in his handwriting. Lynn, let out. My love for you only grows. He was trying to reconcile with me using leftover flowers meant for Lynn. How much of what he gave me had been secondhand? How much of it had never truly been mine? Tristan, pine white. This isn't a cold war. I really never want to see you again. As I walked to the curb to call a cab, Lynn suddenly appeared and blocked my path. Fresh out of the hospital, she looked gaunt and drained, nothing like her radiant self from before. Joan. I want to make a deal, she said, stopping me in my tracks. I was a little curious. What kind of deal could you possibly offer me? You've got nothing left to sell but your organs. She came from a poor family. The only thing she ever had going for her was her looks. Her phone, jewelry, bags. I gave her all of it. Even her living expenses came from the money I shared with her. And my reward? Betrayal. My words made her cry. You don't have to humiliate me like this. It's just a guy. I'll give him back to you. Okay? I almost laughed in disbelief. Until her next words froze me to the core. I can't stay in this school anymore. How about this? You give me your spot for the international exchange program. And I'll give you Tristan. You two can live happily ever after. And I promise to never show up in your lives again. After everything I'd figured out in this second life, there was one thing I hadn't. Why did Lynn reject Tristan's fireworks confession in the first place, when the two were clearly into each other? Now, Lynn had given me the answer. She scoffed and said, how could that kind of trash compare to a chance to study abroad? Only a fool like you would treat him like some kind of treasure. Joan, we're friends. So don't blame me for not warning you. Just play with him and move on. He's not worth it. She toyed with Tristan for the thrill. She rejected Tristan just to take everything from me. In my previous life, after I accepted Tristan's confession, the counselor wanted to nominate me for a scholarship to study abroad. But I had just fallen in love and couldn't bear to start a long-distance relationship with Tristan. Lynn told me she could take my place abroad so the counselor's good intentions wouldn't be wasted. She promised that once she made it big overseas, she'd definitely take care of me. I tearfully saw her off. She went to a prestigious university abroad and eventually became a professor at a top lab, living the life of the elite. Meanwhile, after marrying Tristan, I became an unappreciated housewife. When I texted her, I discovered she had already blocked me. Lynn was waiting for me to be just as naughty as I was in my past life, to hand over that opportunity without hesitation, and watch me fall into the abyss again. But I smirked and sent the recording on my phone to Tristan. You wish. Lynn had no idea what was happening when, a second later, Tristan stormed over in a rage. Lynn, you've been playing me all along? Tristan's face was grim, his eyes red. He probably never imagined that he'd been the one treated like a dog. When the sound of a slap rang out, Lynn shrieked. Tristan had info my adsacher. Listen to me. Joan is framing me. Shut up. To my surprise, Tristan stood on my side for the first time. You said those things yourself. And now you're trying to blame Joan? I must have been blind. Tristan, ignoring her frail condition, shoved her hard. Lynn collapsed on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Tristan strode toward me. I dashed into a taxi like I was avoiding the plague. Joan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Tristan clung to the car window like a madman, his eyes red. It was all my fault before. I was fooled by Lynn. You can hit me. Yell at me, but please, don't leave me. With a loud thud, he dropped to his knees, crying like a child. In my past life, Tristan would throw tantrums over the smallest things. After we got married, he'd give me the silent treatment for days. And I was always the one to apologize first. I had never seen him so humble. But instead of joy or satisfaction, I felt only a dead kind of calm. Tristan, I said coldly, I was blind before. I never want to see you again. Do yourself a favor and disappear. The driver started the engine. Tristan ran after the car, stumbling and eventually falling to the ground. In the rearview mirror, I saw his figure fading into the distance. It reminded me of the Dale and died in the previous life. She died in a drunk driving accident. Before she died, she had called me many times. But I had just suffered a miscarriage and didn't answer her calls. Tristan took me to her funeral. But on the way back, he dumped me still reeling from the miscarriage on the side of the highway. Joan, are you even human? Len called you so many times before she died, and you ignored her. You killed her. I wish it had been you instead. I chased after the car, falling again and again, but he never stopped. That day, I had made up my mind to get a divorce. But the next day was Valentine's Day, and he said he had prepared fireworks for me. I thought I'd get to Valentine's Day and then leave. Instead, I woke up and was reborn 10 years in the past. This time, no one would ever toy with me again. The first thing I did upon returning to school was go to the counselor and agree to the overseas scholarship. Then I went home with my luggage. In my past life, when I married Tristan, we didn't even have a wedding. My parents endured it. But when I insisted on being a full-time housewife, they strongly objected and told me I needed to have something of my own. For love, I broke off all ties with them. On the day they died in a car accident, I missed the chance to see them one last time because I had stayed home to cook for Tristan. Now, seeing my vibrant parents again, I broke down in tears and fell to my knees to apologize. They didn't understand why, but they cried and comforted me. Silly child. As long as you're home, it's all good. In the following days, I prepared for my trip abroad while doing everything I could to make up for what I owed my parents in the last life. The day before my departure, a few friends invited me to the beach. As soon as I arrived, fireworks burst in the sky with a crackle, lighting up my face. People on the beach excitedly pulled out their phones to capture the moment. Who is this romantic guy? I'm so jealous of his girlfriend. Hearing their chatter, I felt numb inside. Just as I turned to leave, Tristan appeared holding a massive bouquet. He wore the suit I had given him, the tie I had picked out, and held a bunch of fiery red roses. Gazing at me with deep emotion. Joan, I love you. If you're willing to forgive me, I'm ready to. I'm not willing, I yelled and slapped the roses out of his hands. Suddenly, a voice of discontent came from behind me. It was one of his friends. Joan, what are you pretending for? Tristan is a well-known rich second generation. A Cinderella like you should be grateful to catch his eye. Say yes, and you'll skip decades of struggle. Faced with everyone's scorn, I chuckled and pulled out the key to a Porsche, pressing the button toward a car in the distance. When the headlights flashed, I turned to see the shock on everyone's faces. With a sneer, I said, Tristan, why don't you tell them who bought everything you're wearing? And now you're the rich heir while I'm the poor Cinderella? What a joke. Since I met Tristan in our freshman year, I knew he paid his tuition with scholarships and covered his living expenses through part-time jobs. I racked my brains to treat him well, buying him clothes, watches, name brands. I was the one who built his shiny image. In the end, outsiders actually thought he was the wealthy one. Exposed like that, Tristan's face went pale, his hands shaking. He had a huge ego. I expected him to lash out. Instead, he stood up and shouted, You're all wrong. I'm the one who's not good enough for Joan. She's always helped me. I'm the one who failed her. I was a little surprised. I couldn't help but sigh. I had still underestimated him. To achieve his goal, he was even willing to throw away his dignity. I shook my head. I'm flying abroad tomorrow to study. There's no need for you to go through all this anymore. I'm not interested, I said coldly and drove away despite his attempts to stop me. The next morning, I arrived at the airport with my suitcase. The weather was beautiful, Hadi was beautiful. But my mood soured instantly when I spotted a familiar figure in the distance, Lynn, pushing her own suitcase. The moment she saw me, her expression was full of smugness. Joan, how sweet of you to personally come see me off. Don't worry. Even after I go abroad, I won't forget you. And let me congratulate you and Tristan, may you live happily ever after. I was stunned. What do you mean? See you off? In this life? I clearly hadn't given her the opportunity to go abroad. Aren't you here to send me off to study overseas? Lynn gave me a knowing smile, like she'd seen right through me. But I truly didn't understand. There's only one spot for the international program. The advisor personally told me I was chosen. Just as Lynn was about to continue, my phone rang. It was the advisor. I quickly answered. Professor. Joan. I forgot to tell you earlier. You're no longer going abroad. I've already given the spot to Lynn. The advisor said, clearly annoyed. My legs went weak. How was this possible? I had made completely different choices this time around. Why was the outcome still the same? Professor. Why would you do this? I couldn't stop shaking. The advisor sighed. I always believed in you the most. But I never expected you to get pregnant by Tristan at such a critical time. If he hadn't shown me the pregnancy report, I'd still be in the dark. The spot has already gone to Lynn. That's final. Before I could explain, he hung up. I stood there, stunned, my mind blank. I'd actually believed Tristan had changed. I hadn't even thought to guard against him. But I never imagined he would go so far as to forge a pregnancy report to frame me just to help Lynn steal my opportunity to study abroad. From not far away, the culprit himself, Tristan, walked toward me. I ran up to him and slapped him across the face. You bastard. But he grabbed my wrist. His eyes red. Joan. I'm sorry. I had no choice, this was the only way to keep you here. Then, having fulfilled my obsession, with a loud thud, he knelt down and opened a small box, revealing a diamond ring. Tears streamed down his face. Joan. I know I've let you down before. I just want one chance to make it up to you. I swear. From now on, I'll treat you right. Stay by your side no matter what. If you don't believe me, we can get married right now. I'll spend my life proving myself to you. A crowd had gathered, cheering for me to say yes. I stared in disbelief, once again reminded of how ugly people could be. They didn't know anything. But just because of a ring, they wanted to push me into the abyss. In my previous life, I had believed Tristan's sweet words and lost myself entirely. This time, how could I possibly repeat that mistake? Expressionless, having fulfilled my I said. Tristan, having fulfilled my son. But I don't love you. How could I possibly marry you? The cheers instantly fell silent. Tristan looked desperate, speechless. Then, Lynn on a wow sigh. Lynn suddenly threw a pink diary from the crowd. It was mine. I had kept a diary during the 3 years I secretly loved Tristan, filling it with confessions and thoughts about him. Tristan opened it and skimmed a few pages, his eyes lighting up. Joan, desperate, speechless. Then, Lynn on a wow sigh. Lynn suddenly threw a pink diary from the crowd. It was mine. I had kept a diary during the 3 years I secretly loved Tristan, filling it with confessions and thoughts about him. Tristan opened it and skimmed a few pages, his eyes lighting up. Joan, stop pretending. I knew you loved me. Before he could finish, I snatched the diary from his hands and ripped the pages to shreds right there. Sorry, I forgot to tear up this diary. And I also forgot to tear apart you two scumbags. The pieces of paper fluttered like snow in the air. I walked up to Tristan and Lynn and slapped both of them across the face. Lynn now, furious, having fulfilled my sigh, raised her hand to retaliate. But Tristan grabbed her hand and shoved her aside. Don't you need to catch your flight? Then get the hell out. Even now, he couldn't stop caring about Lynn's future. When he tried to force the ring into my hand, I sneered and flung it hard. It bounced off the wall a few times and disappeared. He blocked my way, trying to look intimidating. But I didn't back down. I just smiled. Your precious Lynn just ran off. Aren't you going to chase after her? Or are you waiting for me to buy your ticket? I only love you, he shouted. Seeing I wasn't moved, he suddenly began slapping himself hard. The sharp sounds echoed through the airport. People were watching. But he didn't care. Soon, no sigh. His face was red and swollen. Joan, then. Please. Just forgive me this once. I swear I'll never hurt you again. He sobbed, begging. The bystanders started taking his side. If I hadn't been reborn, I might have actually fallen for it again. Then, sorry. Lynn called me. Joan, now. You must be devastated right now. Huh? No matter how hard you try, the spot still ended up with me. She gloated, but she didn't get the reaction she was expecting. Instead, she heard my calm, amused voice. Lynn, why are you so impatient? Don't worry, Your comma is coming very soon. My tone was so confident it made her panic. What do you mean by that? She screamed. I didn't answer. I just pushed past Tristan and went home, pouring myself a glass of red wine. I relaxed on the couch, not at all the broken mess Lynn had imagined. Because that international study opportunity wasn't as easy to take as she thought. A few days later, one afternoon while I was enjoying tea, a video call from Lynn came in. She was wailing. Joan. Help me. Seeing her swollen, bruised face filled me with immense satisfaction. I feigned surprise. What happened to you? Joan, Line. I've been kidnapped. The kidnappers want $5 million in ransom. If I don't pay, they'll kill me. You're the person I'm closest to in this world. You have to save me. As soon as Lynn got to her university abroad, she dressed in the designer clothes and carried the branded bags I gave her, posing as a rich heiress, attending all kinds of high society parties to meet wealthy men. In the end, she attracted the wrong kind of attention and was kidnapped, with her captors demanding $5 million. The same thing had happened in my previous life. That's why I let her take my spot to study abroad. I thought she had already suffered enough. Back then, she also called me in tears, begging for help. As her best friend, I immediately went to my father for help and got the money to pay her ransom and save her life. She swore she'd pay me back, that she'd be grateful forever. But once she made it big, the first thing she did was block me. Joan, are you still there? I know I was wrong before. If you save me this time, I'll give the study abroad spot back to you. Lynn sobbed uncontrollably on the video call, terrified. But I stared at the screen coldly and asked, do you think the school belongs to your family? And you can just decide who gets what? Besides, I don't need that spot anymore. I've decided to go home and inherit my dad's billions. After a lifetime of suffering, I finally understood only family will never betray you. My parents are getting old. It's time I took responsibility. I had just met with my dad's assistant over tea to ask for advice on managing the family business. Lynn cried even harder. Joan, am I no longer your friend? We used to be so close. I know I messed up before. I swear, if I get a chance to come back to China, I'll kneel in front of you and beg for forgiveness. She had completely sullied the word friendship. I didn't want to hear another word. I said my final line. Lynn, sorry. I wish you a long life, far away from me. Then I hung up and blocked her permanently. Those kidnappers were from the slums. In my previous life, even after I paid the ransom, Lynn was rescued in a bloodied, broken state. This time, she probably won't get off so easily. I stopped thinking about her. After settling the bill, I left with the assistant, who insisted on taking me home. But as soon as we arrived at my house, I saw Tristan waiting on the roadside in a white shirt and black slacks. When he saw me, his eyes lit up and he walked over quickly. But when he noticed the assistant next to me, his expression dimmed and he stopped. I looked at him, momentarily stunned. He was wearing the exact same outfit he wore 3 years ago during the freshman orientation speech the day I fell in love with him at first sight. Back then, he was just a bright, hopeful boy in a cheap shirt. Even the scent of his laundry detergent had made my heart race. But time had changed him. He was no longer that pure young man. I nodded at the assistant and thanked him for the ride. I ignored Tristan. Joan. He called out timidly. As I was unlocking the door, he suddenly rushed forward and grabbed my hand. Just as I was about to shake him off, the assistant stepped in and pushed him away. Stay away from Joan. Tristan's face twisted, his gaze darting between the two of us before his eyes turned red. So it's because of him? That's why you don't want me anymore? From his point of view, it did look strange. I had crushed on him for 3 years, chased after him for 3 years, and now, all of a sudden, I was acting like a completely different person. Not only had I rejected him, but I had repeatedly humiliated him in public. But to my surprise, instead of getting angry, he looked pitiful. Leave, or I'll call the police. As soon as I said it, he clenched his fists and swung at the assistant. You homewrecker. You stole Joan from me. I'll kill you. But before his punch could land, The assistant hit back. Hard blood sprayed from Tristan's nose. I quickly stepped in. He's just my dad's assistant. Stop acting like a lunatic. Tristan's tears began to fall. Then tell me, why don't you love me anymore? You liked me for 3 years. Chased me for 3 years. And now that I finally love you, you're the one who's changed. Joan. Please tell me why. I hadn't planned on telling him the truth. But his tears burned. After seeing the assistant off, I looked down at Tristan from the doorway. Because I died once. This is the second life the heavens gave me. I told him everything that happened in my previous life. Tristan was dumbfounded. He clearly didn't believe me. But my eyes left no room for doubt. I didn't love him anymore. Joan, Lynette. He was about to say something when a call from Len came through on his phone. He answered it right in front of me. Just as I expected. I scoffed and turned to leave. But then I heard him roar. Len. You think I'm going to save you? Keep dreaming. You're the one who should die. I wish you'd been torn to pieces. I hadn't even turned back when there was a loud crash. Tristan, hadn't felt mad sigh. In his fury, hadn't noticed the oncoming car. He was hit and sent flying. I personally called emergency services. When the ambulance arrived, he was barely conscious, weakly reaching out his hand, but I didn't respond. He used all his strength to ask me if I had another chance. Would you forgive me? No, I answered without hesitation. I thought I'd never hear from Len or Tristan again. Until one evening. A month later. I was at a celebration party organized by my company when I got a video call from Len. Joan, if you still want to see Tristan one last time, come to the hospital. I was stunned. Len was somehow still alive, more tenacious than a cockroach. She must have read the shock on my face. She turned the camera on herself, showing her left hand. Brutally chopped off. They tortured me. Chopped off my hand. And dumped me in the wilderness. They thought I'd died, but I survived. Oh. And what's that got to do with me? I replied coldly. Len was taken aback, then turned the camera on Tristan. He was lying on a hospital bed, barely clinging to life. She pulled out a knife. You don't care about me. Fine. But surely you still care about Tristan? If you don't come now, I'll kill him. Ridiculous. I didn't care about her life. And I certainly didn't care about his. The only one I care about now is me. I was just about to hang up when I heard Tristan's weak voice. Joan. Don't come. If there's a next life. Please forgive me. The NBANG. The world went silent. 5 seconds later. Screams and footsteps. Then someone picked up the phone. Tristan jumped with Lynn. What's your relationship to them? How are they? They're both dead. I politely thanked them. Without a trace of emotion. And in my heart, I answered Tristan's final plea. If there's a next life, I still wouldn't look back at you. I hung up, deleted both their numbers, and erased them from my life completely. From now on, I'll live for myself. Goodbye forever. Tristan.